Okay, I'm here today to talk about my job as a concept artist and the role we play in game development. I will also break down the techniques and processes of a concept artist for developing characters and environments for comics, games, VFX, and movies. Concept artists kickstart creative projects by imagining and sketching characters and worlds that don't exist across film, animation, VFX, video games, and advertising. Working as a concept artist, you apply imagination and artistic skills to create images of people, creatures, and places and moods. Here on the slides, as you can see, are characters I created for a game called eXode. What my thought processes are when I'm creating these designs, etc. This is Ayumi. She is an officer of the Syndicate, a Yakuza-like faction uh, that's why I gave her a katana and Yakuza tattoos. The visual cues or character design should be able to tell you everything about the character just by looking at her, just from visual cues alone. Okay. This is Captain Cranium, a space pirate who enslaves his enemies by taking their skulls. A good concept artist should be able to create an entire character and come up with crazy ideas with just a name alone. Usually, you'll be just given a short description and the name of the character. Then you come up with the concepts, like numerous concepts. Then you'll pick one to finalize. Okay, here's Nash. He's a Dirty Harry type character. He's a character who shoots first and asks questions later. But instead of telling the audience that, I added visual cues such as a dead terrorist lying in the background and him wearing a uniform so that we can tell like he's the good guy and the guy in the background is the bad guy. Also, I added a mask and a mohawk to further emphasize the fact that he's the bad guy. I added a I added a petrol car in the background to 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 signify he just arrived at the scene and he just caught up with the bad guy. Okay, on to the next design. This is Shaken. He is a hacker. That's why I made him young and also gave him hip hop gear. I also made him have multiple hands to signify he probably has a attention deficit disorder. Mm, mm. I also want to show that he's the type that cannot sit still and is very good at multitasking, hence the multiple hands and yeah. Okay, on to the next character. This is Kumicho. Kumicho means Godfather of the Yakuza. Uh, I gave her very little armor and weapons to signify her power. I also added a dragon in the background, further emphasize that power, symbolize power. This character won me the concept art award for best character. She is heavily inspired by the aesthetics of Cyberpunk 2077. For me, it's okay to be inspired by other people's designs, but it's not okay to outright steal it. The Kumicho, the law of the Kumicho is that her implants are transferred from one Kumicho to the next Kumicho. Like Godfather, like Yeah. These are character sheets I developed for Chronicles of Kai. Um, it's industry standard to actually show the orthographics of a character from different views. This allows the 3D artist to reference it while sculpting it into 3D, usually in Blender or Maya. Orthographics is the front view, the back view, the side view, and the quarter view. And this will allow 3D artists to sculpt it without any issues. Also, if you're doing it for comic book, it's usually used as a reference for the artist that will actually draw it into the panel of the comic books. Here are more characters from Chronicles of Kai. This is King Kultu. I gave him like an animalistic physiology, 8 arms, 4 legs. And these are not normal bipedal human legs. These are like horse legs. And this is the princess. She's also bipedal, but I gave her a centaur suit. Her centaur armor is actually a biomechanical suit where she slots her legs into. So as you can see, like a lot of thought goes into design rather than simple aesthetics. The job of a concept artist is to come up with ideas, and the art is usually just a presentation for the clients. This is another character I designed more stylized rather than realistic. It's more anime and what do you call it? Furry. Yeah, which is quite popular among the DeviantArt community. So I was contracted to design this character. What else? Yeah. Same here. This is a female version of the character. Here are a couple of environments I designed for a game. When you make designs for an environment, usually you split into 3 layers: the foreground, the middle ground, and the background. This gives it an illusion of depth of field. To further emphasize that illusion of depth of field, the layer that's closer to the camera is usually darker, while the ones behind are actually lighter because they are covered in atmosphere. Also, what is important in environment design is the lighting and the mood. Like this one, it's quite bright and whimsical. Here's a design I made for a CRPG isometric game, which is inspired by Baldur's Gate. This is actually a dungeon for the players. It's called the Forge. And as you can see right in the front of the dungeon of the Forge, is a small little white character. This is to show the scale, the epic scale of the dungeon. What I did here was I made the base in SketchUp, Google SketchUp. Then I sketch over it in Photoshop. I just usually use the preset brushes, nothing fancy. The hard round brush. You don't need to go fancy. You just need to use the presets. Like the usual question amateurs ask is what kind of brush you use, what kind of software you use. It doesn't really matter. What matters is the fundamentals you have, fundamentals of art and designs, which is usually perspective, lighting, color theory, anatomy, and perspective. Same here. Another environment I designed for Warner Brothers theme park. I usually start out with a sketch, nothing fancy. Usually I don't go as detailed as this, but this is something the clients ask me to do. Like, yeah, here is the render version. What I usually do to make a design pop, especially if it's at night, I will add bright lights, neon lights, fireworks. It's done in Photoshop, usually using switching a layer to lighten. Then I duplicate the layer, I color dodge it, I give it a filter, usually a Gaussian blur. It'll give you a illusion of a glow. Okay, next design. Okay, this is my process. Usually I will start out with multiple sketches. Sketching is important as it allows you to push the design and it gives you the freedom to explore before you actually put thousands of hours of work into it. And usually it's given to the art director or the client for approval, which design he likes in sketch form. And yeah, once the design is approved, I go on to the next step, which is the render. The render is what we call shading, putting the values, the tone to give the line work form. To improve your rendering, you need to set up still life setups so you can study it. Usually in a variety of lightings. After you get used to it, you are able to render or shade so it looks realistic. Okay, the next step of the process is okay. Since sketching is so important, I would like to talk about sketching more. Sketching for imagination. Usually, when you are in the studio, you sketch without a reference. So you need to sketch from actually your imagination. And to do that effectively, you will need to build a visual library in your head. This is done through studies of nature, or you can look at your favorite artists and draw inspiration for there. There's nothing wrong with that. All great artists does that. Like Picasso said, like he's saying is great artists borrow. No, good artists borrow, great artists steal. It's fine to draw inspiration from different sources, put it together. Like Quentin Tarantino, like all his movies, they draw inspiration for other movies and puts it together. Then you get a Quentin Tarantino film. Like, yeah. Okay, the next tip to improve your sketching from imagination is to understand shape language. Shape language is, as you can see on the left, in the yellow designs, these are sci-fi shape languages. Sci-fi shape languages are usually angular, very synthetic, very sharp, and you can see it's man-made. On contrast to that, when I usually do fantasy designs, more primitive shapes on the right. It's more naturalistic, more flowery, more leafy. Here are the examples. Okay, the third point of the third tip for uh, sketching for imagination is to emphasize on good design. Good design is innovative, something nobody has ever seen before, or a old favorite with a new twist. Like you can draw inspiration for another artist and give it a fresh twist. Uh, Next point will be good design is functional. Like when you design a character or environment, you want the environment to look functional. Like it's been lived in, it's functional, and like you actually work in the real world and not just something made up, you know. So it helps if you reference like real world objects like car engines, like mechanical things like computer motherboards, you know, if you're going sci-fi, you know. And the third point is good design is aesthetic. Something that looks good, something you probably like to spend $1 million on, like a Lamborghini. That's good design, is aesthetic. You know, people won't have a problem spending millions dollars on a Lambo. Okay, to my to if you want to read further on good design, I would recommend this book by Dieter Rhymes, 10 Principles of Good Design. It goes much in depth, and there's actually 10 principles of good design, but I just gave 3 examples here today. Okay, this will be the final stages of my design. I'll go through the color iterations. Like for this character, it's more stylized, it's more whimsical. I gave it like bright colors, bright, colorful. If let's say if I'm going for a more darker feel, like something maybe from Cyberpunk 2077, I'll desaturate the colors. I won't give it such bright colors. I won't make it so colorful. I'll probably make it something like the one in the bottom, grayish, hints of gold or red, you know. And this is the final render. The final render is where I clean up I clean up edges. Actually, is very important in painting. But however, in design, you want only clean edges. It allows the 3D artist uh, confirmation of the form rather than artistic brush strokes and whatever to represent the design. You need to be sure of what you want in the design. I also added details and gave it rim lighting. To be able to imagine lighting, as I said before, you need to really study from nature, study still lives, whatever, you know, all comes from studies, no shortcut, 10,000 hours. Okay, next. Okay, I would like to talk about now. I'd like to talk about the game I'm working on right now, which is Splinterlands. It's a NFT blockchain game. Uh, it's under a new model, which is the play to earn model, which actually gives the player true ownership of the assets in the game. Right here is what I did for the game. A land, which is the new expansion. Um, like this game gives players an opportunity to make money and earn a living. Like more rural countries like Philippines or Malaysia, you can actually play this game to make a living. That's why it's like going viral right now. It's a viral on Twitter under the play to earn hashtag. Yeah, they cannot be duplicated, it cannot be faked, and that's why it has true world value. Like some cards in this game, they are worth like thousands of dollars. Some cards are 10,000, 20,000 USD. Right now, the limited print runs and the lens, which is coming out this September, they just shot in value. So there's actually a huge following for this game right now because of the play to earn potential. Okay, here are screenshots of the game. It's actually what do you call this? Brawler? Is it called a brawler? It's team fight. It's kind of like a team fight game where you just put your cards down, you set up your team, and it fights the other player. So yeah, this is what I'm working on currently. Also, it's built on the Hive blockchain. Hive blockchain is a social media platform where it's like Facebook, but you get paid for the upvotes in crypto, which is our native token is Hive. So you get paid in Hive tokens for each upvote you get. So it allows like a beginner artist to showcase their work. Like if you're not getting a work as a beginner, you're just learning, you're a student, you can just post up your work in the Hive for critique and get paid for it. At the same time, it's a win-win. The actual website is called peakd.com, but it's actually the Hive. Splinterlands is built on a decentralized social platform Hive, which tries to make games accessible to as many people as possible. No matter how many platforms or devices the game is on, it continues to be available via Web 3.0 or a simple browser. You can actually play the game off a simple browser and there's no downloads. And if you intend to make a game for your own, you can come to the Hive. You can actually get investors, backers from the Hive itself. Thus, we are always looking for innovative ways to display our artwork, graphics, and animations with fast load times and minimal resource usage. We are pioneering new ways to bring the blockchain gaming to the masses. Also, unlike Ethereum blockchain, on the Hive, there's no gas fees. It's actually a how you say a stake model. I forgot the term. Anyways, let's move on. So, any questions, guys? Before I move on.
Are you saying that in the game mode, it's low res versions of your character? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm actually doing the lens. They are unreleased as of now. They're coming out next month in the new expansion. So it's behind. It's under NDA. Like I'm still working on it currently. Like it will be out next month. This is an example of the lens I made. One of the lens I made for them, which is all out of NDA, which they already published on their website. So I use that, you know. Any other questions?
Shin, Robert has a question earlier. He's asking, when you say shape language, what reference do you use?
Shape language. When it comes to shape language, it comes out from your own imagination. You don't use reference. we rarely use reference as a concept artist. It defeats the only if we have to make something look believable. We use reference like the textures, you know, like the rust or whatever on the car we come up with. Shape language, yeah, it's all imagination. These designs, this shape language, as you can see, all imaginations. Like, let's say, for example, the primitive designs, the fantasy designs, they take inspiration from nature. That's why they are leafy and more organic, you see?
My question, this is Robert here. My question is, it looks as though some of those geometric shapes are derived, let's say, from Arabic mosaics or something.
Right. But those Arabic mosaics, they derive from nature as well. Like, I mean, they come from nature as well. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's all imagination. Like, it's your interpretation of nature. It's your interpretation of nature. That's the best answer I can give you. For this fantasy designs, more primitive designs. Yeah. Back to the Hive. This is your Hive wallet. This is my Hive account. I've been posting on the Hive for quite a while, and if you like got good articles and content, not just art or whatever, you just post it up on the Hive. The more upvotes you get, the more you get paid. So it's based on the quality of your content, how much you get paid. Like, yeah. So it's a free use. You can try it anytime. Okay, that will end my presentation for today. And thank you for being a good audience. You can follow me on my social medias. I usually update them like once a week with new projects and artwork.